guys, good morning. Today we're going to talk about solving square root equations. I might show you guys a little bit tomorrow about how this is related to what we've been talking about, which is functions. But today I just want to focus on how to solve equations. Now, whenever we're solving equations, right, we always know we need our inverse operations, right? And we should know them pretty well by now, right? We know the opposite of addition is subtraction. We know the opposite of multiplication is division, right? So this is what we used to do and undo them. Well, we learned earlier in the year that the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root of it. So this is really what we're going to focus on today, is not going in the direction we have been going in, but going in the opposite direction, okay? So here's what you guys definitely need to know. If I have the square root of any number and I square that, I just get out what's on the inside, okay? So you can put whatever number you want here and this will be true, okay? So if I said, what's the square root of 5 squared, okay? Well, now that's a little bit tricky. What is the square root of 5, right? So you're going to break out your calculator. I can bring up my calculator. Okay, you say, hey, what's the square root of 5? So it's the square root of 5. It's that mess. You square it, and you get right back to 5, okay? And this works whether you do it this way, or what if I said this? Still the same, right? This turns into, again, anything underneath here is automatically inside parentheses, so this turns into the square root of 25, which is 5, okay? So the big thing you need to know to do these problems is that the opposite of taking a square root is a square, okay? And you guys know that because we did that before, right? When we were solving for x squared problems, we took the square root of them. With equations, okay, what they're slowly going to start to do is they're going to start adding components onto it. They might say something like, hey, what's the square, x is equal to the square, square root of x is equal to 9, right? So then what do? You can square this side and square this side, and you'll find out that these undid each other, and 9 squared is 81. Then what are they going to start to do? They're going to start to say something like this. X plus 4, square root of x plus 4 is equal to 9, right? Well, now what do? So typically the first thing we want to do, okay, we want to isolate the square root, okay? So in other words, anything that's attached to the square root on the outside, which we'll get to in a second, has to be removed. Once we have just the square root, all we need to do is square both sides, okay? Do yourself a favor, put them inside parentheses, okay? Again, even though there's an x plus 4 in here, the square and the square root still undo each other. You get x plus 4 is equal to 81, and now we're back to just a regular, plain old linear problem. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, okay? So you can't subtract that 4 until you've gotten rid of the square root, okay? Let's take one or two more, and then I will go into a few examples. What if I said the square root of x plus 1 minus 6 is equal to, I don't know, 35, okay? Well, again, what am I going to do? Over here, I need to isolate the square root first. So always move whatever's on the outside first, okay? So what am I going to be left with? X plus 1 over here is equal to 41. And now, let's square this side and let's square this side. Are you going to get a big number over here? Yes, absolutely. So 41 squared is, whatever mess this is, 1,681, okay? So you're going to get x plus 1 is equal to, what was it, 1,681. 1681, and again, now that I've undone the square root, now all I need to do is just subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, so what's the answer to this? 1680. Okay, so again, the only other thing they can do, right now, they can do all sorts of things. Is they can throw a variable out in the coefficient out in the front too. So what if I said 2 times the square root of x plus 5 minus 3 is equal to 4, okay? Again, we need to isolate the square root first, so let's add 3 to both sides. I have 2 times the square root of x plus 5 is equal to 7. Now, to get rid of this, I need to divide both sides by 2. So let's get the square root x plus 5 is equal to, well, 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that as a fraction for a second, so I want to show you guys something, okay? When I square, why does it always insist on writing like a crayon? I don't understand. Okay, when I square this, if you guys forgot how to square fractions, remember all you have to do is square the top and square the bottom. So what are we going to get? Sorry, square root will undo each other. We'll get x plus 5 is equal to, well, 7 squared is 49, and 2 squared is 4. Okay, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay. And we're going to get, I'm sorry, we're going to get x is equal to 49 over 4 minus 5. And again, if you really wanted to, you can simplify this. But so yeah, let's do it. X equal to, turn into a decimal, 49 over 4 minus 5, and we're going to get 7.25. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to remind you guys how to do that. Okay, let's take a look through some examples. Okay, solve for u. 6 is equal to the square root of u. Again, pretty straightforward. Square both sides. You know, the first few you guys are just going to look at and know the answer to, right? Okay, 6 squared is 36, right? So in other words, the square root of some number is 6. You guys know that number is 36. Over here, the square root of what number is 3? Well, most of you guys know that's 9. Let's stick to the process. We're going to square this side, square this side. B is equal to 9. Okay. Over here, again, I left one with a fraction. Square root of k is equal to 1/5. Again, if I'm going to square this side, I'm going to square this side. And remember, I'm going to square the top and square the bottom. So k is going to be equal to 1/25. Okay. Again, if you forgot why this rule works, remember it's when you square something, you're multiplying it by itself, right? So this is really 1 times 1 and 5 times 5. Okay. When you get a decimal, first of all, if you really need to, just break out your calculator and do the decimal. But 0.8 is equal to the square root t. Square this side. Let's square this side. Again, if you forgot how to multiply decimals, if this is 0.8 times 0.8, I'll teach you how I learned in like 1993. Again, 8 times 8 is 64. How many numbers did you have for the decimal point? 1, 2. 0.64. If not, guys, break out your calculator. Nobody's going to hold it against you. You're sitting at home anyway. Okay? All right. Here, 2 is equal to the square root of -2 plus x. Again, as always, there's nothing attached to the square root sign, so we're going to square both sides. 2 squared is 4, and this is going to be -2 plus x. I need to get rid of this -2, so we'll add it to both sides. And 4 plus 2 is going to be 6. Okay, same thing here. 12 is equal to square root of -12 plus x. We're squaring both sides. You should know your 12 times tables. It's 144 is equal to -12 plus x, right? So add 12 here, add 12 here. X will equal 156. How am I doing on time here? Okay, wonderful. All right, again here, I got -4 plus the square root of y equals 9. Again, before I go ahead and square this. And all the other examples, if you look, it's already been by itself, right? There was nothing attached on the outside of it. It was always a square root on one side by itself. Here, before we go ahead and square both sides, I'm going to need to move this 4 over. Okay, this 4 is going to have to get moved over, okay? Because I can't square this and this. And I mean, you could, you really don't want to, okay? Because remember, then you're going to have to first outer, inner, last, do the distributive property. Why put yourself through the trouble? Y is equal to 9 plus 4 is 13, okay? Again, what are we going to do? We're going to square both sides. Y is equal to 169. Again, if you guys forgot how to do it in the calculator, 13 squared, there's an enter, okay? All right, over here, again, we got to move that 18 first. So let's start with that, plus 18 on both sides. Okay, it's 20, negative 3 plus t. Okay, again, let's square on both sides. Now that that's isolated, we can square on both sides. This will be negative 3 plus t on this side, and 20 squared is 400. Let's add 3. Now the t is equal to 403. Okay, I want to get down to 1. Okay, yeah, let's solve one more. Yeah. Okay. Again, here there's a 2 in front, so we need to get rid of the 2 first, right? In order to isolate this square root, I got to get rid of that 2. So I'm going to divide this whole side by 2. Remember, I don't have to distribute there. You don't have to distribute because this is multiplied. Okay, 2 times anything divided by 2 would just be that original thing. Okay, so 10 divided by 2 is going to be 5. These 2's are going to cancel out. Okay, and now let's go ahead. And now that I have the square root isolated, we can square both sides. So say 25 is equal to 20q minus 15. And again, now you can go ahead. You can add 15 to both sides. 20q is equal to 40, and we'll find out that q is 2. All right, and the last one is just everything you could possibly have together, okay? So 17 minus 2 radical y minus 9 is equal to negative 13. Okay, so short of putting in decimals and fractions, this is about all the things you can do at our current level. So we're going to subtract 17 from both sides. Okay, watch this negative sign right here. That negative 2 has to come with you. You can't just abandon the negative sign. So it'll be negative 30 divided by negative 2. Square root of y minus 9 is equal to 15. We're going to square both sides. Y minus 9 is equal to 15 squared is 225. And if we add 9 to both sides, y is equal to 234. Okay, so again, that's about as complicated as they're going to get for today. Go ahead, try the skill on Excel. Let me know if you guys have questions.